Alright, this video is to get you started with Postgres and with the apartment database. So in the files in the Postgres module there, we have the apartment database. You're basically creating a database to keep track of the rentals in a 2-floor apartment building with 20 units. All apartments are rented on the basis of a 6-month or 1-year lease. A renter who stays in the apartment for several years would have several different leases. Rents are only raised when a new lease is signed. Some of the apartments have views of the sound. A view adds $150 to the rent. There are 3 kinds of apartment layouts: studios, 1 bedroom, and 2 bedrooms. So, and down here I have a sample of the different data. Basically it shows you the floors and what they've got. Sample of a lease, sample of rent payments, maintenance requests, etc. So, just to get the layout, if you think about the things that you're going to need an apartment, right? And in the apartment, it'll have a number, right? Every apartment will have a number. It will have the number of rooms. It will have view or no view. And what else would an apartment have? That might be, let's call this bedrooms. Alright, that might be about it for an apartment. Alright, and then you have your tenants. And they would have like some kind of tenant ID. They would have a name, possibly a first name and last name. They would have an email and a phone, and probably something like a date added. Okay. And then there would be like the lease, right? So each tenant would have a lease. So there would be a lease number, a tenant ID, probably an apartment number. So let's make this apartment number. And tenant ID and apartment number would be foreign keys, of course, right? And it would also have a date started, length or term, rent amount. Okay, probably a deposit. Let me change this to word wrap. Okay, so those would be things that would be in the lease. And then we would also have, I'm going to call it subtenants. These are the people that are not the rent payer, not the one responsible, but I'm going to put them on a subtenant number. Lease ID or lease number. And it would be like a tenant ID. And we might want a date arrived, date left, or something like that. Okay, so I'm showing you kind of the layout of this. I'm not going to make it for you, but I'm showing you the basic layout. Then there are the payments. I might let you figure that one out itself, but basically the payment date, etc. So I'll let you figure that one out. And then there's maintenance. And the maintenance would have an ID. It would have a, I would tie it to the lease. I think I would tie everything to the lease number. It would have a type, right? And you might want to look up table for types. And it would have a date And maybe a resolve date. I'm not sure of this one. You guys can think about this one a little bit. I think there would also be maintenance details, which would have things like the maintenance detail ID, maintenance ID, which would be a foreign key, maybe just notes, date probably, and maybe cost of what was done, because I'm thinking of this as a list of the things that are done. All right, so that's sort of a general idea. There might be more. You could work on this. This is all going to be done in Postgres, right? So these are the kind of the big topics. These can be refined a little. This is certainly not a perfect list, and particularly the rent payments is wide open for you. So I'm going to minimize that. I am going to go to pgadmin, which is the browser for this. Although actually first, what I would do this in LucidChart. So I am going to create a blank UML, not UML. I want a blank ERD. Let me close that. A blank ERD. And I'm going to create a document. And I'm going to do like just the apartment, and so let's, this is an ERD, so we want the 3 here. So I'm going to bring over the entity. Let me make this bigger. Okay. We want all 3 of these things here. So I'm going to do apartment. I'm going to do apartment number. So let me stretch this a lot bigger. And I'm going to make this as a type int, and I'm going to make it a primary key. All right, and then I'm going to do bedrooms, and I'm going to do int for that too. You could do integer if you want. Either int or integer works. And I'm going to do view, and trying to remember if I'm going to go to pgadmin. The data types, is there a Boolean? Let's just call it an integer also. It'll be plus or minus. Right? It'll be 1 or 0. So there's this as an apartment. I'm going to make like the tenant. Okay, and the tenant will have an ID. We'll make this a little bigger. And again, I would make that an integer. And it will be a primary key. And I'll give them a name. And I'll do that as text. And an email, which I'll also do as text. Text is equivalent to varchar here. These are not keys. That's all I'm going to do for tenant. You would want to do a little bit more. But I'm going to also make the lease, because I want to show you the relationships, and then I want to show you how we can take these and we can copy these to Postgres. So, lease number. Okay, and again, I need to make that bigger. I will make that an integer, and I'll make that a primary key. I am going to make this as a apartment number. Okay, so we got to make this a little bigger. And it will be an integer. And it'll be a foreign key. And I'm going to call it foreign key 1 because it doesn't like foreign keys with the same name. And I'm going to do tenant ID. Again, it'll be an integer. It's a foreign key. I'm going to do this as FK2. All right, and then I'm going to add a row below, and we'll do like the rent, and I'll make it a numeric, not a key. And then again, there would be all the other stuff, but I'm not going to put everything here. We can do the relationship here. So apartment to apartment. And we can do primary key from here to tenant. Right? So we have all of this. I am going to save it and call it apartment start. Okay. So we've done all of this in LucidCharts. Now, notice over here there's import and there's export. So we want to export this. And it has a list of places we can export it. I'm going to export it to Postgres. Notice what it's done is it has written out the table in the SQL, kind of like it did when we forward engineered in MySQL. So I'm going to copy to clipboard. So I'm hoping that it actually did that. So I'm going to do done. I'm going to go to PG admin. First of all, I'm going to make a database. So I'm going to create a database. I'm just going to call it apartment. So to do that, I just right click on databases and add a database. We do create a database. So right click, create database. Give it a name. Here's apartment. Now notice it has schemas. It has all of this stuff that comes with it. Tables are under schemas. And if we look at tables, there's nothing there. But one of the things I'm going to do right at the apartment level is I'm going to do a query tool. And I'm going to copy the, paste the ones that we just got. I'm going to hit the little lightning bolt. It will execute that. It says it returned successfully. And now if I refresh tables, we have 3 tables there. We have apartment, we have lease, and we have tenant. So I'm going to show you how to make another table in a different way. But you should design, whether you do this or not, you should design the database first. So under tables, I can do right create table, and I'm just going to call this let's call it maintenance type. It'll be a lookup table for the maintenance types. All of this is fine. We don't need any of this, so we go to columns, and I'm going to click the little plus, and I'm going to say maintenance type ID. We will select a data type, and I'm going to say integer. I'm going to make it a primary key, yes. Going to hit the plus again. I am going to call it maintenance type name, and it will be text. And it will not, we don't want it to be null. Actually, so we want not null is yes. This actually should be yes too, but I think it's already enforced. That's really all I need in the lookup table, so I will save this. And if we refresh the tables, actually, do we even need to refresh? There's the maintenance type table with its columns. The other way to make tables is this way. So let's make a table. Well, I'm not sure what a table I'd want to make. I'm going to have a new. Actually, I'm going to go way up here. I'm going to get a new query editor. So we go to databases, we go to apartment. I'm going to get a query tool. And I'm going to create, let's look at my notepad. I don't want to do all of this for you. But let's do a we have the maintenance ID. I'm only going to do, we don't have any lease numbers or anything like that. Let's just do a, this is not quite a real table, but I'm going to call it oh, come on. I'm going to say create table maintenance. Okay, and then you begin with a parentheses and end with a parentheses. And a semicolon. So I'm going to say maintenance, maintenance, so I'm not spelling good. ID, we're going to call it an integer. We're going to make it a primary key. Now, if you want it to be auto-numbered, you can actually, instead of integer, you can do serial. Serial is a function that auto-numbers it. Primary key, again, should be 2 words, comma. I'm going to do maintenance type ID, which is going to be a foreign key. So I'm going to say it is an integer. And it references maintenance type ID. This works as long as I spelled everything right. And then I'm going to do a maintenance date, and we're going to just say it is a date. Actually, I'm not sure it has. Let's try date. It'll tell us if that's not the right data type. And I think that's all I'm going to do for this. The last one doesn't have a comma. But you can do your things this way too. So it isn't spelled right. Let's me look at the... oh, I spelled references wrong. References. Let's try it now. So it doesn't like maintenance type. So let's look under maintenance type. Maintain. Oh, I spelled that wrong. So maintenance. You have to spell it the way you spelled it, even if you spelled it ridiculous. Let's look at the column. Oops, not for lease, but for maintenance. Maintenance type. Yeah, actually I did that. Alright, so let's try that. Still doesn't like maintenance type. Maintenance type ID. I'm just looking. It's spelling, I'm sure, that's the problem. Maintenance type ID. That actually looks okay. Shouldn't matter, but let's just see. Maintenance type. It says that the table does not exist. Why does the table not exist? See if there's a thing here to refresh. References, maintenance type. Maintenance type ID. That should work. I'm not entirely sure why that's not working. Anyway, this is the general syntax. If I push this to scripts, create script, it shows you the table, the maintenance, the things. There's more here than you need. It created a primary key constraint there. This stuff you don't need. All of this stuff you don't need because it's just the default. It says that it exists. I do not see why. I'm going to go, let's go back to the other query. That's just my field. That could be whatever it is. This should not matter. Doesn't like that table for some reason. Refresh. I'm going to copy all this. This is the last bit. New query editor. Doesn't like maintenance type. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I'm going to let this be. The main way to do this, the way I really want you to do it, is to build your thing in. To build it in the LucidCharts, and then to export it to PG admin. Paste it there and get the tables. That's the easiest way to do it. You can write the SQL if you want, but you can see that there are problems that can arise. I do not know why that is happening. if we were to create a table lease, let me try that real quickly. I'm going to say lease number integer, primary key. So we will do, because we did tenant, right? So I'm going to do apartment. Integer references apartment number, tenant ID integer, references tenant ID, date started, whatever we want to name that, date, rent amount, numeric. Okay, let's see if this works. It has 2 foreign keys and the primary key. We created them before. Now it says apartment doesn't exist. What did we name it? It's apartment. It does exist. So something's going on here. I will explore it later and I will adjust this, but this will get you going. Let's try something. I'm going to try one other thing. No, something's not right here. See, it shows them. Select star from public apartment. Do I need that? Let's go right back here. If I do quotes, it works. I'm just seeing if this works. I do not know why it needs quotes. It is in apartment columns. It does exist. All right. Anyway, enough messing around.